Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Welcome to your channel, The Anatomy Canvas, with your tutor, Dr. Shehla Aman. In today's class, we are going to discuss with the spinal cord, and the learning objective for the today's class are to describe the external feature of the spinal cord, to discuss the internal structures of the spinal cord, and to discuss the neuronal cell groups of the spinal cord. So spinal cord occupies the superior two-thirds of the vertebral canal. This is the section, longitudinal section, in which you can see it occupies superior two-thirds of the vertebral canal. It is continuous cranially with the medulla oblongata and narrows caudally as the conus medullaris. From the apex of the conus medullaris, the connective tissue filament called filum terminale, it descends downwards till the tip of the first coccygeal vertebra. So this is the longitudinal section. It occupies for superior two-thirds of vertebral canal. Starts from the lower border of the medulla oblongata till the conus medullaris. In this section, you can also see the different cross sections of the spinal cord and their nerve roots coming out. The anterior and the posterior are dorsal and ventral nerve roots, and when they combine, they emerge through the dura mater and they form the spinal nerve. Here you can see the dorsal root and the ventral root. Both of these root combine. Before combination, there is the dorsal root ganglia, in which the neuronal cell bodies of the sensory neurons are present, which gives a central and peripheral branch. The central branch goes towards the spinal cord through the dorsal root, while peripheral branch passes into the spinal nerve to the different parts of the body. So spinal cord extends from upper border of the atlas vertebra to the junction between the first and the second lumbar vertebra at the level of the intervertebral disc between these two vertebrae. Its average length is nearly 45 centimeter. Its weight is approximately 30 gram, and it is 1 centimeter in diameter. So you can see this is the spinal cord which is present in the vertebral canal, and it is covered by the three meninges from outer to inner side. These are the dura mater, the arachnoid mater, and the pia mater. Beneath the dura mater, as you all know, there is the subdural space, and between the arachnoid and pia mater there is the subarachnoid space which contains the cerebrospinal fluid. So the filum terminale, here you can see the filum terminale. This is a filament of the connective tissue. Approximately it is 20 centimeter long and descends from the apex of the conus medullaris, and it has two parts. The first 15 centimeter is called filum terminale internum, and last 5 centimeter is called filum terminale externum. So in first 15 centimeter, where it is called the filum terminale internal, it is present in the subarachnoid space in which the CSF is present, and this is the space where we can tap this CSF and we can give the anesthesia as well. And below this space, this subarachnoid space finishes and it merges with the thick coat of the dura mater, and it becomes filamentous, and last 5 centimeter of it are attached to the back of the first coccygeal vertebra. So this is 5 centimeter, the filum terminale externum, and this area is the 15 centimeter from the tip of the conus medullaris to the back of the S2 vertebra. This is filum terminale internum. So next important thing is that the spinal cord is segmented, and it contains 31 pair of the spinal nerves, of which 7 cervical, 12 thoracic, 5 lumbar, 5 to 7 sacral, and coccygeal. So it gives rise to 31 pair of the spinal nerves, and it is not uniform in diameter throughout the length. So its diameter varies in different areas. Now we will see what are these different changes. In this diagram you can see this is the cervical enlargement from the area of the C3 to T2 level, and this is the cervical enlargement for the brachial plexus. The nerve roots arising from this area supplies the upper limb. Similarly, the lumbar enlargement in the area of the L1 to S3 to give nerves to the lower limb, forming the lumbar plexus. Here you can also see the spinal nerves which are emerging through it. This is cervical segment, this is thoracic segment, this one is lumbar segment, then this sacral segment. And you all people know that as the spinal cord end at the level of the L1 vertebra, but the spinal nerves which emerges corresponding to their own intervertebral foramina, so they form the cardia equina, which is the rootlets of the spinal nerves which are emerging at lower levels. And these are the coccygeal nerve, and at the end you can see the filum terminale. So these are the different anatomical levels of the spinal cord according to the age and corresponding to different vertebra. In third month of intrauterine life, the spinal cord occupies all of the vertebral canal. But at the time of the birth, it is present behind the L3 vertebra, and in the adults, it is present at the level of the intervertebral disc between vertebra L1 and L2. So these are your MCQs as well. That what are the different anatomical levels at different ages. This is also important clinically to take the CSF fluid for examination, for identification and diagnosis of the different diseases, or to take CSF in cases of this anesthesia. So we have to take care of the spinal cord, and we give the take the fluid from this level. So next is the gross anatomical features of the spinal cord. The two enlargement of the spinal cord, as I have told you, these are the occur in the amount of the gray matter, where amount of gray matter is greater than the other regions of the sensory and motor control of the limb. So one is the cervical enlargement to supply the upper limb, and other is the lumbar enlargement to supply the lower limb. These are the two enlargements of the spinal cord. In another so these are the two basic enlargement related to the motor supply of the upper and the lower limb. Then what is conus medullaris? This is the region at the end of the spinal cord where the tissue tapers into a cone-shaped manner, approximately in the region of the L2. So this is the conical tip or end of the spinal cord, which is called the conus medullaris. So what is filum terminale? As I have told you, this is a connective tissue continuous with the pyometer of the spinal cord, and it ends at the level of the S2 vertebrae. So what is cardia equina? It is the extension of the nerves exiting from the base of the spinal cord and appears like a horse tail. That is the that's why it is called cardia equina, means horse tail. It gives an appearance, a bushy appearance. These are actually the nerves which are emerging from their corresponding foramina. So this is a cross section of the spinal cord, and in this cross section you can see the inner is the gray matter and outer is the white matter. This gray matter is arranged like a butterfly manner. So first look at this. First we have a posterior median sulcus and anterior median fissure and which divides the segment. So from the and these are the horns of the spinal cord. So behind the gray matter, this area is called the dorsal column, and again this dorsal column is divided into two parts, the fasciculus and fasciculus gracilis and fasciculus cuneatus. These are the two basic divisions of the dorsal column. Then in between the two tips of the butterfly shaped gray area, this is the lateral column, and between the anterior tip of the anterior horn and the anterior median fissure, we have the anterior white column. So these are the three columns: the anterior white column, the lateral white column, and the posterior white column or dorsal column. Similarly, the gray matter is also divided into dorsal horn or posterior horn, and the ventral horn or anterior horn, and in the region of the thoracic and lumbar region, where we have the cell bodies of the autonomic ganglia, another horn is present called the lateral horn. In this diagram, you can see this is basically the dorsal root ganglia in which the neuronal cell body is located, and it gives off axon which divides in a T-shaped manner. As the central part enters through the dorsal root into the dorsal horn, where it ascends as the dorsal column. And similarly, its a peripheral branch from the goes towards the periphery, where it takes the sensory sensation through the spinal nerve. Similarly, this is the anterior horn which supplies, it is basically motor in nature, and the nuclei giving rise to axon moving through the ventral root or anterior root combine with the posterior root to form the spinal nerve, and the spinal nerve then exit through the intervertebral foramina. So these are the cross section. Then I again repeat. Butterfly shaped gray matter having posterior horn, lateral horn and anterior horn. In the center you can see the central canal, and the gray matter which is surrounding the central canal is called the gray commissures. So this is the anterior gray commissure and that one is the posterior gray commissure. Similarly, white matter, the one which is present behind one side bounded by the posterior median sulcus, and on other side we have the tip of the dorsal root. So this is the dorsal white column. Then between dorsal and ventral gray matter, this is the lateral column, and then the anterior median fissure and the tip of the anterior gray column, this is the anterior white column. So these are the this is the cross section of the spinal cord, which you can see, which you can identify different areas. Now have a look at this diagram as well. This is the butterfly shaped gray matter. It has dorsal horn, it has lateral horn, it has ventral horn. The central canal and surrounding gray matter is called anterior and posterior gray commissure. So in this diagram you can see this is the area which is supplying the somatic sensory nuclei. The cell body is located in the dorsal root ganglia, and its central branch enters into the through the dorsal nerve root into the dorsal horn, and peripheral branch goes towards the periphery. Similarly, this is the ventral horn, and this contains the somatic motor nuclei, and their axon travel through the ventral nerve and they join the dorsal nerve to form the spinal nerve. In this diagram also you can see this is longitudinal section of the spinal cord. The first segment is taken at this level. These are the different segmental changes which you can identify. So first you should know that at the level of the cervical segment, all of the sensory supply from the different body has been accumulated. So here the white dorsal white matter is thick. Similarly, in the region of the brachial plexus, there is the enlargement of the anterior horn. So in this area, in the area of the cervical segment, the basically spinal cord is oval in shape. It has both large area of the dorsal horn as well as larger anterior horn, which contains basically which supplies the brachial plexus through the brachial plexus to the upper limb. Then look at this cross section taken at the level of that segment T3, and here you can notice another horn which is the lateral horn. This is present for the contains the neuronal cell bodies for the autonomic ganglia, basically the sympathetic ganglia. Their preganglionic nerve endings and over here, and their neuronal bodies are present over here. Here you can see again the fasciculus gracilis and fasciculus cuneatus, both are present. At the level of the lumbar vertebra, you can only see the fasciculus gracilis. Fasciculus cuneatus is not present because fasciculus cuneatus contains the sensory supply from the trunk and upper part of the body, and this is the lumbar segment. Also at this lumbar segment you can see the enlargement of the anterior horn because it supplies the through the lumbar plexus to the lower limb. This is the segment at the level of the S2. It is a smaller segment. Both the sensory supply, the white matter as well as the gray matter is reduced in shape. So here the shape of the spinal cord is nearly oval. Here it is round to oval. Here it is nearly round. Here it is nearly round. So these are the different changes which are present at different segments of the spinal cord. Now we will discuss what is the Rexed lamination. This is very important. The Rexed lamination, we divide the different parts of the gray matter into 10 lamina. So lamina 1 to 10, write down in Roman letters. So lamina 1 corresponds to the dorsal horn, and this is a first lamina. Then this is the cap shape area which covers the dorsal tip of the dorsal horn. Then is the lamina marginalis. Lamina 1 is also called lamina marginalis. Then is the lamina 2, which is darker in color, which contains a neuronal cell body. Both of many neurons over here appears darker, and this is called the substantia gelatinosa. Then lamina 3 and 4, where we have the nucleus proprius present, and these lamina 1 to 4 corresponds to the dorsal horn, and these are sensory in nature. So please remember, dear students, lamina 1 is lamina marginalis, lamina 2 is also called substantia gelatinosa, lamina 3 and 4 having the nucleus proprius, and these 4 laminae corresponds to dorsal horn of the spinal cord, and these are sensory in nature. Now where is the lamina 5 and 6, which are present at the base of the dorsal horn? And lamina 6 is basically enlarged in cases of the limb enlargement, in the area where there is the brachial plexus is present, or in area where lumbar plexus is present. Lamina 7 includes much of the intermediate horn. It contains dorsal nucleus of Clark. It contains posterolateral nucleus, retroposterolateral nucleus, posteromedial and anteromedial. Different nuclear groups are present in this lamina 7, and this contains the propriospinal interneurons. Then is lamina 7. After this, lamina 8 also contain the propriospinal interneuron. Then is lamina 9, and this lamina 9 contains area of alpha and gamma motor neuron. And lamina 10 is the area of the gray matter which surrounds the central canal. So remember, first 4 laminae corresponds to the dorsal horn. They are sensory. Lamina 5 and 6 present at the base of the dorsal horn. Lamina 6 enlarges in areas where there is the enlargement for the limb. Lamina 7 is basically related with the intermediate horn, especially where there is enlargement for the autonomic nervous system. And lamina 8 is basically propriospinal. It is motor in nature. Lamina 9 contain alpha and gamma motor neurons, and lamina 10 contain the gray matter which surrounds the central canal. So these are the different lamina called the Rexed lamination. Now look at this diagram. First remember, this is the cervical segment and this is the thoracic segment. So we can see different groups which are present. At number 1 you can see the tract of Leisure which is present. This is an important viva question. The tract of the Leisure contains the fibers of these neurons which ascends 1 or 2 segments above or below their entry, and then they synapses with the neurons. So this is the tract of the Leisure. Number 2 show the lamina marginalis where nucleus marginalis is present. Lamina 3 shows the reticular formation, and lamina 4 shows the substantia gelatinosa. Lamina 5 is the dorsal nucleus of the Clark. Here you can see the nucleus which are present. This is the posterolateral nucleus and this is the retroposterolateral nucleus. These are the medial nuclei. This one is the anterior medial nucleus and the posterior medial nucleus, and this is the anterolateral nucleus which is present over here. So these are the different nuclear groups which are present over here, and this is the intermedial group which is present over. So these are the different nuclei which are present in this different parts of the spinal cord. So I please repeat. At number 1 you can see this is tract of Leisure. At number 2 you can see this is the nucleus marginalis. Nucleus posteromarginalis, because basically it is called nucleus posteromarginalis, which is present in the lamina 1 called the lamina marginalis. Then at 4 you can see substantia gelatinosa. At 3 you can see the reticular formation, and at this is 12 and 13 you can see the posterolateral group of the nucleus and retroposterolateral group of the nucleus, and this one is the this is the anteromedial group of the nucleus, posteromedial group of the nucleus, and this one is the anterolateral group of the nucleus. And here you can see at 7 number this is intermedial group, and here you can see the dorsal nucleus of Clark which is present. So these are the different nuclei. Now you can see there is enlargement in this area of the anterior horn of the spinal cord because of the nerve fibers rising to supply the brachial plexus. Also you can see the two well defined areas, the fasciculus gracilis and fasciculus cuneatus, which are present. Here you can see intermediate horn is present, and this intermediate horn contains the nuclei for the sympathetic ganglia. Next is the lumbar area. In lumbar area again you can see enlargement in the anterior horn for the lumbar plexus which supplies the lower limb. Here different groups of the nuclei. You can again see this is tract of Leisure, this is the nucleus posteromarginalis, this is substantia gelatinosa, this is reticular formation. These are the posterolateral nucleus, anterolateral nucleus, anteromedial nucleus, and posteromedial nucleus, different group of the nucleus, and this is the dorsal nucleus of the Clark which is present over here. So this is the sacral spinal segment, in which you can also see only the fasciculus gracilis is present. These are the different sections of the spinal cord. It's a rexed lamination, it's a different nuclear group, its internal and external features. So here I complete my today's class, and we will meet in the next class with different tracts which are running in the spinal cord. Either they are ascending tracts or descending tracts. We will complete them, and here is the reference for your today's class, that is Gray's Anatomy by the Susan Standing 40th edition. Thank you very much for your attention for today's class, and Allah Hafiz till the next class.